Hello, this is Atavisionary or Roderick Kane. A few days ago, we learned that Google was going to really amplify their efforts on censoring content they don't like. Most of that content is, obviously going to be alt-right slash neo-reactionary type of thought. Um, so obviously, that's not something we're very fond of. So I went ahead and wrote this article a couple days ago about it. Google declares a war on wrongthink. There's a video that kind of describes how it works here. I think, just go ahead and watch this video, which I'll link to, if you want to know exactly, the details of how it works. But basically, it makes it much harder for certain content creators to actually share their information. Um, you can't the only way you can watch certain videos is, for example, Jared Taylor talking about racial differences in intelligence, um, Black Pigeons, Black Pigeons Speaks, who's a YouTuber. He made a pretty good video about what happens to society when you allow women to have say over it. Um, the short of it is not in much good anyway. But it's very difficult to actually go watch those videos now. You'll never see it suggested in the Google search. You'll never see it suggested on the sidebar of YouTube. Um, it they've done everything they could short of actually deleting the videos. So the only way to see some of these things now is direct links. Before that, though, they had already been demonetizing a lot of different people with those type of with non-progressive views and removing their videos. And so this is merely a ramping up um, rather than like some unique change in their policy. Like they've been planning on doing it for a long time. I think it's pretty clear to me. But anyway, in this article at the end, I had seen a lot of people talk about something called the Adnauseam ad blocker. It was the first time I had heard about it. Um, And one of the key things about the Adnauseam ad blocker that's different from other ad blockers is that it actually spoofs the ad. So it sends information back to who's ever delivering the ad. In this case, it's usually Google, saying, oh, there was a click. And so the advertiser has to pay for that. They pay for those ads. But if they're paying for ads that aren't being viewed, obviously uh, that's not really in the interest of the advertisers to pay for that. So the idea about using the ad nauseum ad blocker is one, you don't have to see ads, and who wants to see those anyway? Um, and two, you can directly make Google's data on their ad viewing be completely unreliable, thus chasing their advertisers away. This could potentially very much hurt Google's bottom line, and considering their SJW convergence and the war they've declared on alternative views, I believe this is a worthwhile thing to do. Now, there are other ways you can do this if you don't want to um, use the ad nauseum. Although I'm going to honestly say I like it a lot and I highly recommend it. I find it better than the other ad blockers that I've used in the past. But if you didn't want to do that, you could go ahead and download the Brave browser. Now, this is the Brave browser. Um, as you can see, I've got Dark Enlightenment up here, which is the subreddit that I run. And this automatically, it's built into the browser to block ads. It's run by, I think, Brandon Ike, who used to be, you'll forgive me if I got his name wrong, but he used to be the head of Mozilla Firefox, but he was a CEO of Mozilla, but he got forced out because that organization had also been converged by SJWs. When it became apparent that he had donated, I think, $1,000 to the anti-gay marriage bill in California. So, for being against degeneracy, um, and donating that money, he got forced out of the company and the browser that he had himself built. It wasn't just the CEO; he had built it from scratch. I'm pretty sure. So he had gotten forced out. He went over to start this browser separately. One thing to keep in mind, though, it does use the Chromium, like the back end of Chrome is, I guess, publicly available, so anyone can use that to make a browser. Um, so it actually is using Google's stuff. Um, I like Brave, and I used it for a while, but I just found that it happens to freeze a lot, and it happens to load really slow. Now, I'm sure this is just, these things will probably get fixed eventually, but for me, it's just kind of annoying to have it freeze up, the browser freeze up a lot, and I just found it annoying. I don't use Mozilla Firefox because I had some issues with it crashing a lot too. I don't know why. Um, and I couldn't figure it out, and I tried uninstalling and reinstalling. So it kind of left me with not as many choices. So I started using Chrome. But that's okay because with Adnauseam, it doesn't matter if you're using Chrome or not. It's still going to hurt Google's bottom line. So you don't actually have to switch from Chrome, but and still accomplish it if you're using Chrome. Now it will take a little bit of extra effort to get in there, but that's okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the talking about Ad Nauseam directly. So if you look at Ad Nauseam, you can see here. Um, if you click up in the upper right, this is this is a little thing that it can pop up, and there's three things that you can do. There's this button here, which is resume. What that means is that on my website, I've added it to the whitelist, mainly because I don't want to get, I do use Google Ads myself. Um, so I don't want to, if you spoof ads on your own website, that's a good way to get not be able to use it anymore, and I didn't want to do that, so I added it to the whitelist. Um, the settings, which we'll click on now, we can see now this is the whitelist over here. We'll go ahead and talk about the whitelist first. I've added my website obviously, but I added a few others. I've added America, America.org. I've added both. I did this manually, so I wasn't sure if I needed just the domain name or the full .com, so I just added both. Added Breitbart, added Countercurrents, added Social Matter. I'm probably going to add more. Oh, here's Gab. Basically, the way I look at it is this. I mean, yeah, some of these websites are going to use Google Ads. I'm not even sure if these other ones do or not, but presumably, if it's content I support, I want to make sure that they're able to still get some of that ad revenue. And yes, Google's going to make a little bit of money on it, but the little bit of money they make off of Atavisionary.com or America is insignificant compared to their, how much they have to pay and their revenue. Whereas for these smaller websites, it could mean a lot more. So there's a lot of asymmetry there in how important having these ads are. Whether or not Google gets some revenue from America.org, it doesn't mean anything to them. But to America.org, maybe that means a lot, or to Atavisionary.com, or Social Matter if they have ads. I don't think they do, but I added them anyway. Um, so there's a great asymmetry there, and so you can support, in my opinion, you can support your specific content without um, really having that much of a positive impact on Google, because it's just the importance of it is drastically different from these small websites compared to the giant that is Google. So yeah, that's what I would tell you to do there. And that's one of the things. If Google's going around deciding what views are able to be monetized, and not monetized. I guess they are their own company and they can do that. Some people argue that. Some people argue that they're too much of a monopoly to be allowed. I'm not going to comment there. But the thing about Ad Nauseam is that it allows you to do that in inverse. Well, if you don't like the content on Vox or Wall Street Journal or New York Times or whatever, most of the websites, news websites are very left leaning. You can, uniformly block them from getting any revenue from you. And not only that, but you spoof Google's ad algorithms, so that it looks like all these things are getting a lot of fake traffic, which they are. Um, so, I mean, if Google can say, well, these guys don't deserve money, then I think we can say the same thing too. Uh, I don't want my browsing to even a little bit positively impact these various left-wing websites. So, you know, what comes around goes around, and it's, if they're going to do it, I think it's fair that the average user does it too. And if enough people do this, I think it really can harm Google's bottom line substantially, and probably these other left-wing websites. So, um, yeah, I think it should be done for that reason. Anyway, you can do it this way. You can add them here manually. So if you have a list, if you're at a specific website, like say here's Wall Street Journal, Mizzou pays a high price for appeasing the left. It's like, well, that's actually pretty good. It was actually a pretty decent article. So let's say, oh, well, if you're going to have articles like that, I'm going to go ahead and disable Adnauseam on your website. So I'll disable it. And, in the future, if I refresh the page, the ads that are on this page should load, if there are any. There probably are. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but that's how you do it. And so if I go to my whitelist here, it should be added. Yeah, see? So you don't actually have to manually do it. Anytime you get to a website you like, you can go up to the top right corner and disable it and whitelist it on there. So like you're not going to think of every single website you like off the top of your head. So you can do it that way manually. Now I don't I have no particular love for the Wall Street Journal, so I'm going to go ahead and resume it. I don't need them on there. In this little box, you can see what the recent ads were that were blocked, and I think that's the URL of the ad, not the website I was on. You can get the settings here. There's help. This has something to do with the filters. I'm not really sure. Now this is a kind of a cool feature. It's not particularly useful, but it is cool. I do like it. If you look here, you can see all the different ads that are blocked. So it's showing 300 in this little sort of graphic here, and it shows you how many are clicked. So when one of these ads loads, it actually does click the majority of these ads and sends them fake data. It spoofs the Google's algorithms and makes them think that, oh, someone actually clicked on it, when of course I didn't. I didn't do that. Now it estimates that in the 5 or 6 days that I've had this installed, that it's cost advertisers almost $1,000, and that's just me. That's one person. Now, if you were to do this over thousands of people, I mean, this adds up pretty quick, and it really really discourage um, people from advertising with these internet companies, and it could really bring them down. If you go here, if you click the question mark button, it'll sort of tell you how it estimates that, because ad nauseam doesn't know how much any particular person or ad group pays for an ad, but they do have some analysis of it, which gives them an estimate. Ads apparently can go from $1 to $50 per ad, and so what they do is they average it on base. The average I guess is $1.58. So they use that in every ad they click. It just adds that up. So this number isn't exact, but you can reasonably say that's a nice estimate. Now, what you can do if you click on one of these ads here, oh, come on. If you click on one of these ads, you can see here's a picture. If you click on one, it brings it up. It tells you the target where you would go if you clicked on the ad, and it'll tell you which website it was blocked from, which is kind of cool. It's kind of convenient. Um, and you can do that with all these ads. I don't need to click on all of them. I just thought this was a really cool feature. Um, I don't necessarily think I'm going to look at it very often, or anyone would, but it is cool. It's just slick looking, and I mean, it just shows, this is a competently put together, um, it's a competently put together extension or whatever. So anyway, we talked about whitelist. About is just the normal about stuff. The my rules and the my filters. One of the things that's really cool about Adnauseam is it appears to have a great ability to customize. Like I really like how the whitelist is working, and it looks like you can import as well. Like I don't know, I guess from a text document or something like that. So if you had if there's a list somewhere, someone could. I'd assume someone could come up with a list of alt-right, neo-reactionary websites that deserve support. They could upload that list somewhere, and people could just do it en masse. And that way, you know, if you're on the distant right or anywhere along there, you're going to have a list of websites uh, that you could just import and just automatically have that be supported. So I'm surprised no one has done that yet. Um, I don't really plan on doing it, but I think it would be a good idea. The my rules, you can make up your own permanent rules. There's documentation for how to do this. I'm not really a super tech guy, so here's filters. I'm not sure what the difference between filters and my rules are, um, but I would assume that this gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of ability to customize if you're sort of a tech leaning type of person and you like doing those kind of things, and you like to make it all special, or maybe there's some particular element in web pages that you really hate, and I would assume that this kind of stuff allows you to block it. But there's pretty good documentation. I'm sure you'd be able to look through it if you're interested in that stuff. Same with this, but I'll let you figure that out on your own. So what they apparently do is there's a bunch of different filters and rules that have been set up by different groups. And so what they have is like multiple of these lists or code or whatever built into it. This is just the default. I haven't changed this at all, and I haven't seen a single ad on any web page that was not whitelisted already. So as far as I can tell, you don't even need to add anymore. But if you wanted to, they give you a list to choose from, and then um, you can add even more. You can add even more URLs if you want to. So that'll add to your list. Like, say there's some particular web page that you don't like, you can add it to there. So, say if you like streaming, instead of paying for movies, you like streaming from some of these streaming sites, and they pop up ads sometimes. I assume you could pop up the URLs of those ads, and then those would probably just get blocked. Um, Not sure. But, that's something worth playing around with. And then we have our settings page. This is also just in its default settings. So I guess they're in the philosophy that if it's an ad that doesn't track, like it doesn't use any of your personal information, doesn't look at your browsing history, it's just a blank. It's just putting an ad and hoping that you like it without knowing anything about you. So these ads are, I guess, preferable for privacy reasons. So they have it set up so that if it's those sort of non-tracking ads, that that it doesn't do anything with those ads. It doesn't hide them, and it doesn't spoof them either. Um, and so there's some different things you can do. Click ads. You can actually turn that off if you don't want to spoof. You can just have it block without spoofing. Um, Block malicious ads. That's probably good. They apparently have a colorblind friendly setting. I haven't tried that out, but for those guys out there who are colorblind, sure. Ooh, I wrote about this in my book. How much was it? I know it was 9% were women. I'd have to go look. I think it's around 25% of guys or was it 9% of guys were? No, it was. I think it was like 9 to 10% of guys are colorblind. That's what it is. So for 9 to 10% of the population, this might be a very good. Well, the male population, this might be a very good thing for you. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I like that. Now, one of the things you might guess is on Firefox, it's very easy. You can just go to this page and click on it, and it installs like um, any normal add-on. So it's not really a problem. But for Chrome, They've blocked it on Chrome. They don't want this extension on Chrome for obvious reasons, mainly because it has that ad spoofing feature. So, as I linked to in my other article, there is Adnauseam on GitHub gives you a description of how to do that. I will link to this as well. Um, but this tells you how to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and go through it and just kind of show you how to do it in video format as well. If you prefer going through this, it's not that hard. Um, you can go ahead and do that. I will provide the link for it. You get the release, you go to this page, you download it. Just click on it. It should download. Yep, there it goes. I think I've already downloaded it on my previous attempt. Well, yeah, my previous attempt to record this video, I did that. So it's downloaded here. You go to your downloads thing, you just extract it. I'm sure you know how to extract things. Now I'm kind of dumb, so what I did is I put it in my documents folder for some reason. I'm sure you'll put it in a much better place than I decided to do. And this is where it is, but you can put that anywhere that makes a lot more sense than documents. So what you go do now is once you have that downloaded, you go over here, click on this three little dots here, go to More Tools, go to Extensions, and you open up Extensions. And so what you have to do is there's this developer mode up here on the top right, and you have to click that to turn it into developer mode. Now the reason they do that is so that people can play with the extensions they're trying to build before they're approved by Google or anything else, so that they can see whether or not it works and debug it and that kind of stuff. And that's the only way you can do it is if you go into developer mode. And whenever you start Chrome, it'll ask you to turn off developer mode and you just click cancel. Not a big deal. So you click the load extension, go to wherever it is, which I guess would be here, and Adnauseam, and then you click on the folder that it's in. So you click on that folder like that, you click OK, and it'll get itself to go in here. You can also see that I have disable autoplay. I hate it when videos and sound automatically starts playing when you load a website, so that was really important to me to disable that because it's very annoying. Anyway, that's how you. That's my review of Adnauseam. I think it's a great, great, great extension, and that even if you don't care one lick about Google's current um, censorship overload, it's worth getting regardless because who doesn't want to have ad blocks? Even if you're completely apolitical, I think it's worthwhile. That's how you put it in Chrome if you want to keep using Chrome. The other browsers are a bit easier. And I hope you enjoyed this video on this review, and I hope you install Adnauseam and enjoy it as much as I have. Thanks. Later, guys.